It was a bitterly cold night in Baker Street, when the silence of our sitting room was broken by the clattering of hooves outside. The lamplight quivered upon the frost-bitten windows, and the fire in the grate burned low. Sherlock Holmes reclined in his armchair, eyes half closed, the smoke of his long pipe curling upward like the ghost of some silent thought. I had been making notes of some recent case which had exercised his formidable powers when suddenly there came a violent knocking at the street door.
Someone approaches at this hour, Watson. Mark the urgency in that knock. It is no casual caller, but one driven by purpose.
Mrs. Hudson admitted the visitor, and a moment later, Inspector Stanley Hopkins entered, his boots and coat glistening with frost. His expression bore the mixture of excitement and anxiety which I had learned to recognize as the herald of a serious affair.
Hmm. Mr. Holmes, I beg your pardon for calling at so late an hour, but a matter of the gravest importance has arisen. I thought of none but you.
Pray compose yourself, Hopkins. Take the chair by the fire. Now, what dark errand has brought you to Baker Street when honest men should be abed?
There has been a most dreadful crime, sir. Sir Eustace Brackenstall of Abbey Grange lies dead, murdered within his own dining room this very night.
At the name of Sir Eustace Brackenstall, I pricked up my ears, for I knew him to be a man of some notoriety in Kent, master of the great estate of Abbey Grange.
Murder, you say, and under his own roof. Tell me every particular you have, Hopkins, and omit nothing.
I came to you directly from the scene. Lady Brackenstall herself discovered the crime. She is distraught, naturally, but has given a statement. 3 burglars of the infamous Randall gang broke into the house. They surprised Sir Eustace at supper, bound Lady Brackenstall with the bell rope, and then, when Sir Eustace resisted, they struck him dead with a poker from the heart.
I could not suppress a shudder, for the vision of such brutal violence in a quiet English home was deeply unsettling.
Hmm. The Randall gang again. A convenient spectre, Hopkins. Too convenient, perhaps. But we must not theorize ahead of the facts. You have secured the scene, I trust.
Indeed, Mr. Holmes, no one has been admitted or dismissed save the constables on watch. If you will accompany me, a special train waits at Charing Cross.
Excellent foresight. Watson, your hat and coat. We travel tonight.
And so, within the hour, we found ourselves seated in a darkened railway carriage, the countryside streaming past like some ink-black sea. Holmes leaned forward, his thin, eager face illuminated only by the flicker of the lamp, his keen eyes alight with that restless fire I knew so well.
Observe, Watson, how murder chooses no hour but its own. Yet every crime, however cruel, leaves behind it the trace of reason. Our task is but to read what is written in the language of fact.
I listened, as I often did, marveling at the clarity of his thought, though I confess my own mind was still entangled with Hopkins's grim tale. By the time we reached Chisenhurst station, the first pale light of dawn had touched the horizon. A waiting carriage bore us swiftly through the frosted lanes until the great sombre outline of Abbey Grange rose before us, its gables sharp against the winter sky. Within, the atmosphere was one of terror, barely subdued by discipline. The servants moved about with pale faces, whispering in corners. The hall was cold, vast, and echoing, the portraits of Brackenstall's past seeming to frown down at the intrusion of sudden tragedy.
This way, gentlemen. Lady Brackenstall awaits you in the morning room.
We entered to find Lady Brackenstall reclining upon a couch, her face pale but composed, framed by a cascade of golden hair. A bruise upon her temple told of violence, yet her bearing was noble despite her distress. Beside her stood her maid, Teresa, a tall and austere woman, loyal as steel.
Mr. Holmes, I thank you for coming. This house has been plunged into horror. Last night, 3 masked men burst upon us. They gagged and bound me here with the bell rope while my husband, poor Eustace, struggled bravely, but in vain. They felled him with a cruel blow.
I am most deeply grieved, madam. But your courage in recounting this dreadful scene does you credit. May I trouble you for a detailed description of these assailants?
They were just men, dressed in sailors' garb, with thick voices. I could not see their faces for the masks. Their leader cursed in a coarse tongue, and his hands tremble with drink. Beyond this, I can tell little.
And the bell rope with which you were bound, was it cut from its fastening?
Yes, Mr. Holmes, they tore it from the wall and secured me tightly to this very chair. See, the rope still lies there.
Wondering, I glanced to where she pointed. Indeed, the length of rope lay coiled upon the floor, its fibers frayed where it had been severed.
I thank you, Lady Brackenstall. You have endured a grievous trial. Rest now, I shall disturb you no more than is needful.
We next followed Hopkins into the dining room, where the body of Sir Eustace lay beneath a white sheet. The heavy oak table was littered with the remnants of supper, the glasses overturned, and a bottle of Burgundy half empty.
Observe, Watson, the glass before the deceased is still half full, while Lady Brackenstall stands untouched. The wax drippings upon the cloth show the candles burned late, yet the servants heard no cry until it was too late. Curious.
Holmes bent over the body, lifting the sheet. Sir Eustace Brackenstall had been a tall, powerful man, his features still set in an expression of mingled anger and surprise. Upon his temple was the frightful wound, and beside him lay the blood-stained poker, bent by the force of the blow.
A single strike. The man was killed outright. Yet note, Watson, the position of the body. It lies not where one would fall in the midst of struggle, but placed, almost arranged.
I watched in silence as Holmes examined every inch of the room. He measured the rope, tested the chairs, scrutinized the windows, and peered long at the wine glasses. His eyes gleamed with the joy of the hunt, and I felt again that peculiar awe which his methods inspired.
Hopkins, the windows are fastened within. No sign of entry from without.
That is true, Mr. Holmes. They must have come by the door.
Or not come at all.
At these words, Hopkins started. While I felt a thrill of astonishment, Holmes spoke no more for the moment, but paced the room, head bent, lips moving in silent calculation. At last he turned, his expression grave yet tinged with that quiet certainty I knew so well.
Watson, you will agree, this case grows most interesting. Here we have the semblance of a burglary, yet the facts rebel against the tale. Lady Brackenstall's account is vivid, but one detail sits ill with me.
And what detail is that, Holmes?
The rope, Watson. The rope was cut, but why cut it when it might simply have been untied? And see how neatly the end is severed, as by a knife in steady hand, not hastily torn by drunken rogues. Elementary, perhaps, yet it hints at a deeper truth.
I confess the matter was far from elementary to me, yet I held my peace, Gray, knowing that in time all would be revealed.
Come, Watson, we must speak further with Teresa, the maid, for in this house, as in all others, the walls have ears, and servants' eyes see more than their masters suppose.
And thus began our long pursuit of truth at Abbey Grange, a pursuit which was to lead us through deception, tragedy, and at last to the revelation of a crime most curious in its motive and its execution. The winter morning had grown brighter as we returned to the morning room where Teresa, Lady Brackenstall's maid, awaited us. She was a tall, angular woman with sharp eyes, the sort one might rely upon for loyalty, but not for gentleness. Treated us stiffly, her hands folded with military precision.
Miss Teresa, you were in Lady Brackenstall's service last night?
Oh, aye, sir. I have been with my mistress since she left Australia to marry Sir Eustace. I have stood by her through sorrow and hardship, and I will not see her slandered by any tongue, not even in the name of inquiry.
Your devotion does you honour, madam. I seek not to cast blame, but to uncover fact. Tell me, what did you observe when the crime was committed?
I was roused by a cry, sir, and when I came down, my mistress was bound, and poor Sir Eustace lay upon the floor. The burglars had gone. That is all.
Her words were short, her voice hard. Yet I fancied there was beneath it a current of restrained passion, a fierce loyalty that might conceal as much as it revealed.
Did you glimpse the men, even in passing?
No, sir. I saw nothing of them, only the wreck they left behind.
And yet you are certain it was the Randall gang?
The whole county knows of their depredations. Who else could commit such an outrage?
Who else indeed? Thank you, Mr. Reeser. That will suffice for the present.
Oh, as she withdrew, Holmes's eyes followed her with keen interest. Gorgeous! When the door had closed, he turned swiftly to Hopkins.
Hopkins, you trust too easily to appearances. The Randall gang is but a convenient cloak. Did you mark the maid's manner? Fierce, guarded, almost defiant. She knows more than she says.
You astonish me, Mr. Holmes. She seems to me merely loyal.
Loyalty may drive one to silence as readily as fear. But come, Watson, let us examine further.
Cowboy moved once more into the dining room. Holmes inspected the glasses again, then the sideboard, upon which stood a fine collection of silver.
Strange, Watson, is it not, that burglars intent upon gain should leave such treasure untouched? These candlesticks, this plate worth a fortune, and yet they carried off nothing but their crime.
I had not thought of it, but the truth struck me forcibly.
Consider further. 3 strong men, yet they strike but a single blow and flee? No ransacking, no hasty flight, no footprints in the snow outside. Burglary, my dear Watson, it is not.
Then what, Holmes?
Murder, Watson. Murder cloaked in the guise of burglary. The question is, by whose hand and for what cause?
Holmes next bent to the bell rope, his long fingers caressing its fibers.
See here, Watson. The rope is cut cleanly. Now, if I wished to bind a woman in haste, I should seize whatever came to hand. But to cut down the bell rope, why, it requires deliberation. Moreover, observe the knots. They are neat, sailors' knots, not the bungling lashings of drunken rogues.
Indeed, the bindings were precise, the rope coiled tightly.
A seaman's hand, Watson, or one long accustomed to ropes. Yet Lady Brackenstall swore her assailants were rough drunkards. Here lies the contradiction.
Holmes rose and paced, his thin form restless, his eyes gleaming.
Hopkins, did you examine the grounds?
Yes, sir. There are no footprints save those of the constables and the servants.
Just so. Snow fell heavily last night, yet no trace of ingress or egress remains. The men must either have flown or, what is more likely, never entered at all.
At this deduction, Hopkins stared in bewilderment, while I felt my admiration deepen.
But Lady Brackenstall herself saw them.
Did she? Or did she believe what she was meant to believe?
Holmes now turned his attention to the hearth. He knelt, sifting through the ashes with delicate care.
Ah, what is this? A fragment of glass stained with wine. It belongs not to any of the standing glasses. And here, another shard. Someone has broken a vessel and concealed the pieces in the grate.
He laid them out upon the table. They were fragments of a delicate wine glass, finer than those upon the table.
A 4th glass, Watson, broken and hidden. Why? Because it bore witness to another presence at this supper. Sir Eustace, Lady Brackenstall, and, yes, a 3rd. But who was this guest, unacknowledged, whose glass had to be destroyed?
The puzzle grew deeper. I struggled to fit the pieces, but they eluded me.
Come, Watson, we must walk the grounds.
Outside, the morning air was sharp as a blade. The frost clung to every branch, and the snow lay crisp beneath our boots. Holmes examined the garden paths, the shrubbery, even the frozen pond, his gaze darting like a hawk's.
Ah, here, note this, Watson. By the wall, beneath the window, a broken twig, and beneath it a drop of blood upon the snow.
Indeed, a crimson stain, vivid against the white.
A wound, perhaps, upon the intruder, yet no footprints. Curious, very curious.
Holmes stood in silence, lost in thought. The wind stirred the bare branches, and the silence of the estate pressed upon us like a weight.
Watson, I must question Lady Brackenstall once more. There is something in her tale which rings false, though whether by intent or by confusion I cannot yet say.
Back within the hall, Lady Brackenstall received us with weary patience. Holmes bowed slightly before addressing her.
Madam, forgive me, but I must trouble you again. You spoke of your assailants as rough seamen. Did you observe aught in their speech or manner to confirm this?
Only their oaths and their violence, sir.
And yet the knots that bound you were those of a practiced sailor. You are acquainted with such knots.
I. I was raised in Australia, Mr. Holmes, where I knew many who went down to the sea. I recognize the handiwork. Yes,
Precisely. And the bell rope. Why cut it down, when a curtain cord or sash might serve as well?
they were brutal men, sir. I cannot answer for their choice.
Or perhaps the choice was not theirs at all. Perhaps it was the hand of one known to you.
Sir, what do you mean?
Only this. There was a third at supper. His glass was broken and hidden. His presence is denied, yet the ashes betray him. Who was he?
At this, Lady Brackenstall turned pale, her hand trembled, and Theresa, standing close, laid a warning grip upon her arm.
Enough. My lady has suffered enough, Mr. Holmes. You go too far.
Truth often lies beyond endurance, Miss Theresa. Yet truth will out.
For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then Lady Brackenstall rose, her eyes luminous with unshed tears.
Mr. Holmes, you are cruel, but you are right. There was another, yet I will say no more. Oh, right, raise and tease. For I cannot speak it. I know speak it. Oh, yes.
She turned away, and Theresa drew her gently aside. Holmes regarded them with grave compassion.
Watson, the case is clearer now. Yet the path ahead is perilous. We must tread with care, for here lies not mere crime, but the wreckage of human hearts.
Thus did Holmes lay bare the contradictions of Abbey Grange. Yet though the veil was lifted, the figure behind it remained shadowed. Who was this unknown guest, whose glass was broken in secrecy, whose presence was both hidden and undeniable? Holmes gave no answer, and it doesn't for bad Govan, but his eyes shone with the certainty of one who already sees the shape of truth. And so ended that morning's inquiry, leaving me in awe and bewilderment, yet resolved to follow Holmes wherever the path might lead, through storm or sunshine, until the final knot was untangled. The morning shadows had lengthened into afternoon when Holmes declared that we had learned all we go, all for the present at Abbey Grange. Lady Brackenstall had withdrawn, overcome by grief and fatigue, while her maid remained a silent sentinel at her side. We took our leave with Inspector Hopkins, who was clearly unsettled by Holmes's manner of questioning. As we stepped once more into the cold Kentish air, he turned upon Holmes with some heat.
Mr. Holmes, I fear you are unjust. Lady Brackenstall has suffered grievously. To press her does. Why? It borders on cruelty.
My dear Hopkins, you reproach me as though I found pleasure in causing pain. Believe me, I have no such taste. But truth is a shy creature. If one is too gentle, she will never leave her hiding place.
Hopkins shook his head, unconvinced. For my part, I was torn. My heart ached for the pale, sorrowful widow, yet my reason told me Holmes had detected some deeper current.
Watson, you recall the fragments of glass, the sailor's knots, the drop of blood in the snow? These are not trifles, but signposts. They point us toward the sea.
The sea?
Yes, Watson, I have little doubt that somewhere upon the coast lies the clue to this grim puzzle. We must seek it out.
And indeed, within the hour we were again in the carriage, Holmes silent and intent, his eyes fixed upon the passing hedgerows as though they contained the cipher of the whole affair. At length he spoke.
Watson, did you mark Lady Brackenstall's accent?
It struck me as somewhat colonial, though softened by long residence in England.
Precisely. She was raised in Australia, where the sea is the highway of life. She knew sailors, ships, and the knots they use. Her maid, Theresa, likewise. Do you not see? If there is a third figure in this drama, he is no ordinary thief. He is a sailor, and one known to Lady Brackenstall.
Then you believe she recognized her assailant?
I believe she harbors knowledge. She dares not speak, and knowledge withheld is often more dangerous than ignorance.
Our journey ended at a small port town. Its harbor filled with vessels rocking gently against the wharf. The ostrom, the salt air was sharp, mingling with the cries of gulls and the creak of rigging. Holmes led the way along the quay with the air of one who knows his quarry lies near.
Let us inquire at the inns, Watson. A sailor cannot stay long ashore without leaving traces.
We visited one tavern after another, questioning landlords, listening to gossip, scanning the faces of rough mariners. Hours passed thus, and my patience flagged, but Holmes pressed on tirelessly. At last, in a low inn near the docks, we struck fortune. The landlord, a red-faced fellow with a knowing look, nodded when Holmes described a tall, strong seaman with a scar upon his cheek.
Aye, sir, I know the man. Captain Jack Crocker they call him, master of the Rock of Gibraltar. He's a bold one, with fists like hammers, but honest enough in his way. He's been in and out of this house these last weeks, drinking little but brooding much.
And where might we find him now?
He has a room above. Shall I call him?
If you please.
A moment later, the stairs creaked beneath a heavy tread, and a man entered. A man who seemed the very embodiment of the sea. He was tall and broad, with weather-beaten features, eyes that shone with frank courage, and a scar that ran from brow to cheek. His gaze moved swiftly from Holmes to myself, then settled, wary, upon our companion.
You've been asking for me. Well, here I am. What's your business, gentlemen?
Captain Crocker, my name is Sherlock Holmes. This is Dr. Watson. We come concerning the tragic death at Abbey Grange.
After pause. Didn't you know?
The man's voice was low, yet filled with an intensity that sent a shiver through me. He sank heavily into a chair, his great hands clenching upon the table.
We know enough to suspect that you were present. The broken glass, the sailor's knots, the drop of blood.
Then there is no use in lies. Yes, I was there. And by heaven, I struck him down.
Started in horror at the sudden confession, but Holmes remained unmoved, his face calm, his eyes fixed upon the sailors.
You killed Sir Eustace Brackenstall?
I did, and I'll not deny it. But before you condemn me, hear the truth.
His voice shook with passion, and I saw in his rugged countenance not the hardened lines of a criminal, but the torment of a man driven to desperate act.
Lady Brackenstall, Mary, she was once my sweetheart in Australia. We were to wed, but fortune and the sea parted us. She was dissuaded, forced, I might say, into this cursed marriage with Brackenstall. He was rich, titled, and cruel. She has endured misery beyond telling.
Of course, the sailor's fist struck the table as he spoke, and his eyes burned with indignation.
I returned to England but a month ago and sought her out. I saw with my own eyes the bruise upon her cheek, the fear in her gaze. Sir Eustace was a brute, a drunkard, a tyrant. I swore I would protect her, though I had no right.
And last night?
Last night I came to the house by her bidding, or rather by her need, and she had written that she could endure no more. I entered secretly. We supped together, herself, her maid, and I, but he returned early, flushed with wine. He stormed upon us like a madman, cursed her, struck her, and turned upon me with a poker.
The man's voice deepened, his hands trembled with the memory.
I seized it from him. He rushed at me. I struck once, no more. He fell, and never rose again.
A heavy silence fell. My own heart beat thickly, for the picture he painted bore the stamp of truth.
And the tale of the Randall gang?
It was Teresa's doing. She said the law would never believe me, that they would hang me without mercy. She devised the story of burglars, bound her mistress to the chair, cut the rope, and bade me flee. I obeyed, though it tore my soul.
Holmes leaned forward, his gaze searching, weighing every word.
But didn't. And the drop of blood in the snow?
It struck me as we struggled. The blow opened my skin, that was all.
I could not but pity the man. His confession was no proud boast of a villain, but the anguished outpouring of an honest heart ensnared by fate.
Captain Crocker, the law is clear. You have slain a man, and for it you may hang. Yet I am not the law. I am but its servant, or perhaps its conscience. Tell me, would you face a court with this story?
Plead if it might spare her, but if my silence will save her honor, then silent I would remain, though the gallows claim me.
He spoke with such fierce devotion that I could not but respect him.
Watson, what say you? Here is a man who has slain, yet not for gain nor for malice, but to defend a woman from cruelty. Shall we cast him to the wolves of justice, or shield him in silence.
I hesitated, torn between duty and sympathy. At last I said, Holmes, my heart tells me he is no murderer in the true sense, but rather an avenger. Yet the law,
The law, Watson, is but a tool. It is justice we serve, not statutes.
Then you will not betray me?
That depends. The truth must be weighed. But I promise you this, I will not hand an innocent man to the rope.
Captain Crocker bowed his head, overcome. Holmes rose, and with that air of quiet command which none could resist, placed a hand upon the sailor's shoulder.
Remain in port, Captain. Do not flee. Should I summon you, come without delay.
I deliver my word.
And so we left him, standing tall despite the shadow of doom, a figure of tragic strength against the seaman's tavern wall. As we walked back along the harbour, I turned to my companion. Holmes, surely you will not betray him?
Betray? No, Watson, but we must tread carefully. The law is a clumsy net. Once cast, it may drag down the innocent with the guilty. Yet if we hold silence, we ourselves become arbiters of life and death. Oh, that is a heavy burden, even for me.
His words struck me with the weight of truth. We were no longer merely hunters of crime, but guardians of human fate. Thus did we uncover the sailor's secret, and with it the deeper tragedy of Abbey Grange. Yet the case was not ended, for Holmes had still to determine where duty lay in the rigid letter of the law or in the higher justice of mercy. The carriage bore us back from the harbour to Abbey Grange, the frost still glittering upon the fields, though the sun had begun to sink behind the bare oaks. Holmes was silent for much of the journey, his chin sunk upon his breast, his long fingers drumming a restless rhythm upon his knee. I knew that behind that mask of abstraction his mind was racing, weighing the sailor's confession against the evidence and the law. For my part, I could not free myself from the image of Captain Crocker rubbed, honest, desperate, confessing his deed with a courage that was almost noble. The question haunted me, was he murderer or martyr?
Watson, recall what I have often told you when all other explanations are eliminated. That which remains, however improbable, must be the truth. We have reached that point. The burglars never existed. The third glass tells us there was a guest. The sailor's knots proclaim his trade. Captain Crocker's confession confirms all.
Then the matter is settled?
Settled in truth, yes. Settled in justice, that is another question.
The shadow of Abbey Grange loomed before us as we approached once more. The great house stood like a fortress against the evening sky, grim and silent, save for the cry of rooks returning to their roosts. Within, we found Lady Brackenstall and Theresa awaiting us in the morning room. Cause the fire burned low and the heavy curtains shut out the pale light. Lady Brackenstall rose, her eyes searching Holmes's face with mingled fear and hope.
Mr. Holmes, have you discovered aught?
Madam, we have spoken with Captain Crocker.
At these words, she gave a low cry and sank back into her chair. Theresa placed a protective arm about her mistress's shoulders, her stern face softening for the first time.
Then all is lost. He has betrayed himself.
Nay, madam, he has spoken only because he loves you.
Sir, if you mean to deliver him to the gallows, say it quickly and be done. But know this, he is no villain, but the truest man that ever breathed.
I do not doubt it, Miss Theresa. Yet the law does not measure truth by the heart. Asks only, did this man kill another?
Rising, her voice trembling but resolute. Then let it take me also, for I was as guilty as he. It was I who summoned him, I who begged for his protection. If his hand struck the blow, my soul commanded it.
She spoke with such dignity that I felt tears prick my eyes. Theresa too wept silently, though her proud head remained unbowed.
Lady Brackenstall, I beg you, restrain yourself. The truth is plain, but the path before us is less so. Do you not see? If this matter is given to the law, the gallows awaits your champion. If we conceal it, we ourselves become conspirators against justice.
And what is justice, Mr. Holmes? Is it justice that I should be chained to a drunken brute, beaten and shamed within my own home? Is it justice that the law, which should protect, instead binds me to misery?
Softly, you speak with the voice of tragedy, madam, and perhaps with the voice of truth.
A silence followed, broken only by the crackle of the fire. At last Holmes straightened, his keen eyes burning with decision.
Very well. The matter shall not pass beyond these walls.
Lady Brackenstall gave a cry of relief, while Teresa clasped Holmes's hand with fierce gratitude.
You are a man of honor, Mr. Holmes. God bless you for this mercy.
Do not mistake me, madam. Mercy is no light gift, nor is silence an easy burden. But I see before me a woman who has suffered beyond endurance, and a man whose act was born not of malice, but of desperate love. In such a case, the letter of the law is but a mockery.
Hopkins, who had entered unnoticed, now stepped forward, his face pale with astonishment.
Mr. Holmes, you cannot mean this. To conceal a crime, to shield a confessed killer. Why, it is monstrous.
Monstrous? Perhaps. Yet more monstrous still would be to drag an honest man to the rope for saving a woman from torment. Hopkins, you are young. In time you will learn that justice and law are not always one.
But what am I to tell the yard?
Lem, the Randall gang has struck again. They will believe it readily enough, for the legend of the Randalls suits them better than an inconvenient truth.
Hopkins stared, aghast, but Holmes's authority was not to be resisted. The inspector bowed his head in reluctant acquiescence.
You take upon yourself a grave responsibility, Mr. Holmes.
I have shoulders broad enough to bear it.
Lady Brackenstall reached for Holmes's hand, her eyes brimming with tears.
You have saved us both. How can I ever thank you?
Live, madam, live with honor and peace. That is thanks enough.
Holmes bowed, and with that gesture the matter was ended within those walls. Yet the case was not ended within my own heart. As we journeyed back toward London in the darkening twilight, I could not restrain my thoughts. Holmes, are you certain? Have we done right?
Right, Watson, is a word with many faces. In the eyes of the law, perhaps we have failed. In the eyes of justice, I believe we have succeeded.
And yet, to let a confessed killer go free.
Would you rather see him hanged? Picture it, Watson. A gallows at Newgate, a rope around that seaman's neck, and beneath his feet the trap that falls. Do you call that justice for the saving of a woman from a tyrant's hand?
No, no, I could not bear it.
Nor I. The world is not perfect, Watson. The law is but a blunt instrument. If at times I bend it, it is not from contempt, but from reverence, for I bend it toward truth.
His words calmed me, yet still I pondered. The case of Abbey Grange was unlike any we had met before. It was no puzzle of stolen jewels, nor trick of disguise, nor cipher of letters. It was the raw clash of human passion, love, cruelty, and desperate honor. At length, Holmes stirred from his reverie.
Watson, promise me this, that you will never set pen to paper upon this case, quandary. Let it be forgotten, buried with the winter snow.
I hesitated, for it was ever my instinct to chronicle his triumphs. But seeing the gravity in his face, I gave my word. And yet, here I must confess my weakness. I have broken that promise. For though I shall never publish this account in my own day, I cannot deny the impulse to record it for the sake of truth, that some future age may know the measure of Sherlock Holmes's heart as well as his mind. Thus did Holmes decide the case of Abbey Grange, not with handcuffs and warrants, but with the scales of justice balanced in his own soul. And as the lamps of London flickered once more in the distance, I knew I had witnessed not merely the craft of a detective, but the compassion of a man who dared to choose mercy over law. It was late on the following evening when Holmes and I found ourselves once more in our familiar sitting room at Baker Street. The fire glowed cheerily, the lamp cast a golden circle upon the littered table, and outside the fog hung heavy upon the city streets. Yet though the room was as ever, my own spirit was restless, for the events at Abbey Grange still weighed heavily upon me. Tess. I sat with my notes spread before me, but I could not bring pen to paper. Holmes lay stretched upon the sofa, his eyes half closed, his pipe between his fingers, the blue smoke wreathing about his aquiline features. He might have seemed the very picture of repose, but I knew from long habit that his mind was at work. At last I could contain myself no longer. Holmes, forgive me, but this case, it troubles me more than I can say.
Ah, Watson, you still wrestle with your conscience. Speak freely.
We swore an oath, you and I, to uphold truth and justice, and yet we have conspired to hide a crime, to shield a man who confessed to killing another. How can this sit well upon your mind? How can this sit well upon your mind?
Because, my dear fellow, I distinguish between crime and sin, between law and justice. The law is a rigid thing, made by men who often know little of life's tragedies. Justice is a living spirit, subtle and merciful. Sometimes, to serve one, we must set aside the other.
Yet Sir Eustace lies in his grave, slain by Captain Trocker's hand.
And who mourns him, Watson? Who weeps for Sir Eustace Brackenstall? Not his widow, whose bruises bore witness to his cruelty, not his servants, who feared his drunken rages, not the county, who whispered of his shame. A life such as his is already a crime against nature. Crocker's blow was but the last page in a book written in vice.
You make it sound as though his death were justice itself.
In a sense, it was, not by law, but by nature's balance. Do you not see? Mary Brackenstall was a prisoner, condemned by society to endure torment without hope of release. Crocker was her deliverer, though the act condemned him. Would you, Watson, have chained her again to that tyrant's hand, had he lived?
No, Holmes, I could not. My heart rebels at the thought.
Then let your conscience rest. We have not betrayed justice, only the blindfolded idol men call law.
His words soothed me, yet still I pondered. And what of Inspector Hawkins? He was sorely troubled.
Hopkins is young. In time, he will learn that the world is not drawn in black and white. I have given him a fable of the Randall gang, which will serve the Yard's appetite for neat conclusions. Let him feed upon it. Better so than to drag Lady Brackenstall's honour through the mire of a trial.
I smiled despite myself, for Holmes's disdain for officialdom was ever a source of amusement to me. Yet, beneath his irony, I sensed the weight of decision still lay upon him. Holmes, do you ever fear that one day such choices will return to haunt you? Right? That in shielding one, you may doom another?
I fear it daily, Watson. That is the price of judgment. But I would rather err on the side of mercy than cruelty. The gallows has claimed enough innocent souls in its time.
His words carried a gravity I had seldom heard from him. For once, the brilliant logician spoke not as a cold machine, but as a man of deep moral conviction. The fire crackled softly, the fog pressed against the windows, and for a long while we sat in silence. Then Holmes stirred, and with that sudden animation which marked his nature, he sat upright.
Watson, you recall the sailor's hands?
Strong, scarred, honest hands. Yes,
They were the hands of a man who works, not destroys. There was no cunning in him, no malice, only the straightforward blow of a heart too long restrained. Such hands do not belong in chains.
and Lady Brackenstall, what of her?
She will live, Watson, and perhaps, in time, she may find peace. If fate is kind, she may even find happiness with the man who risked all for her.
Do you think it possible that she and Crocker,
Why not? In another land, in another time, their union might yet be lawful and honorable. Who are we to say that life owes them nothing?
His words warmed me, for in them was a tenderness I had seldom glimpsed in him. Beneath the cold mask of reason lay a heart capable of compassion, and it was in such moments I loved him best. The hours passed, the fire burned low, and still we spoke, turning the matter over like chessmen upon a board. At length, Holmes rose and drew back the curtains. Collays. The lamps of Baker Street glowed faintly through the fog, and the rumble of carriages drifted up from the road.
Another night, another case closed. Yet, Watson, mark me, not all victories are written in the record books. Some lie hidden, known only to ourselves, and remembered by those we spared. And
And what of this one? Shall it remain forever untold?
I charge you, my friend, set down the facts if you must, but never publish them. Let it be a sealed chapter, a record for your conscience alone. For the world craves heroes and villains, not the tangled truth of human hearts.
I gave my word once more, though already I felt the weight of that promise pressing upon me. For I knew that one day, when Holmes was no longer at my side, the world must know that the man who solved mysteries also bore the courage to choose mercy. Holmes turned back from the window, his tall figure outlined against the lamplight. He took up his violin from its stand and began to play, a low, haunting melody that filled the room with melancholy. The notes rose and fell like the sighing of the sea, carrying with them the memory of Abbey Grange, of Lady Brackenstall's tears, and of a sailor's rugged confession. I sat listening, my heart full, for in that music I heard not only sorrow, but hope, the hope that in a world so darkened by cruelty, there yet shone sparks of honor, love, and mercy, so piarili thingis. Thus ended the adventure of the Abbey Grange, not with the clatter of handcuffs, nor the triumph of courts, but with a choice made in the quiet of conscience. And though Holmes would never claim it as his proudest victory, I hold it among his greatest, not for the brilliance of his deduction, but for the greatness of his heart. And so, dear listener, I lay down my pen. The fog swirls outside, the fire burns low, and Holmes's violin sinks softly into the night. The world will not know this tale, but you and I shall carry it, as witness to a truth deeper than law, that sometimes mercy is the highest form of justice.